questions that people want to ask, and often we ask the questions that we wanted to ask in Parliament but never got the chance to ask.
So join us every Saturday, 10 a.m. till noon on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Dan Wootton. You can watch me live on GB News Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. And did you know that you can also watch and listen live on our website, gbnews.com. You'll always be up to date on the latest breaking news, as well as enjoying the best stories, opinions and shows. You can even join the debate under our live player as you're watching. So head straight to gbnews.com on TV, radio and online. GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, Nana, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment.
I came to GB News because it's the people's channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different.
Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry. It's 6 o'clock. Coming up tonight, Tobias Ellwood. He has basically stepped down from his role of chairman of the Defence Select Committee. Why? Well, because of that weird, quite frankly, video where he was basically praising the Taliban. So was it the right decision that he went? And also, more broadly speaking, should we, the UK, work closely with the Taliban? Is it time for us to officially basically do that or not? Also, I want to ask you about state pensions. They're going to affect each and every one of us. You're either collecting it right now or at some point you will be. There's an argument brewing there about whether or not this should be increased in line with wages plus bonuses or not. Also, many people are saying that too many pensioners have been pulled into paying tax because of basic pensions, because sometimes people are getting a little bit more, I don't know, through work, pension schemes or otherwise. So I'm asking you a simple question. When it comes to state pension, should that ever count towards your taxable income in this country or not? And did you see what's happened over in Peckham? A shopkeeper has got himself in a spot of bother, basically by using force to defend his products in his shop. I'm asking, is it ever okay for shopkeepers to do that or not? And CCTV, is there a place anywhere where it should be forbidden? I'm asking because a school is in trouble for installing it in their toilets. Weird or basic common sense? You get in touch and give me your thoughts. We'll have it all to come and more. But before we do that, let's bring ourselves up to speed with tonight's latest headlines with a legend that is Polly Middlehurst.
Michelle, thank you. Good evening to you. Well, the top story tonight, as you've been hearing, Tobias Ellwood has resigned as chair of the House of Commons Defence Committee over the so-called Taliban tourism video. In a clip, he praised the Taliban government in Afghanistan. Well, GB News understands Mr Ellwood attended an informal meeting where he was asked to defend his comments. MPs on the committee tabled a vote then of no confidence in him after his comments were published online. The Bournemouth East MP had chaired the committee since January 2020. That a developing story and more on it coming out all the time. We'll bring it to you, of course. Now, GB News understands the father, stepmother and uncle of Sarah Sharif are flying back to the UK tonight to face questions over her death. Sarah's father and his partner fled from the UK to Pakistan after the 10-year-old little girl was found dead in the family home in Woking in Surrey on the 10th of August. Surrey police are saying they now need to speak to Sarah's family about her death. And a man has been arrested after an 11-year-old girl and 2 men were injured by an American XL Bully crossbreed dog. And if you're watching on television, a warning: the following clip does contain graphic images. Footage emerged on social media, here it is, of the dog chasing and attacking people. This is in the Birmingham area at the weekend. West Midlands police are saying the 60-year-old has been now arrested on suspicion of possessing a dog dangerously out of control. The former chief financial officer and 3 others from the collapsed bakery chain Patisserie Valerie have all been charged with conspiracy to defraud. The Serious Fraud Office says it's charged Christopher Marsh and his wife alongside a financial controller and financial consultant in relation to the alleged offences. The Fraud Office accusing them of conspiring to inflate the cash balance, and the annual reports from 2015 and 2018 have allegedly also been tampered with. They're going to appear at Westminster Magistrates Court next month. The Chancellor says the government's sticking to his plan to halve inflation as the UK economy shrunk by 0.5% in July. Jeremy Hunt, though, says he remains confident about the future of the UK economy, saying the country has, in fact, quickly recovered from the pandemic and is also growing faster than countries like Germany or Italy. But Labour says the economy's contraction is a failing of the government. And Sir Keir Starmer said today that the Prime Minister had failed the country. It was during a heated Prime Minister's questions time. He attacked Rishi Sunak's record on the criminal justice system, education, immigration and security. It follows the escape of terror suspect Daniel Khalif and the China spy scandal in Westminster. Sir Keir says the Prime Minister can't be trusted to protect the country. But Rishi Sunak hit back, saying the opposition leader was a politician without conviction.
Probation, prison, schools, China, yet again inaction man fails to heed the warning and then blames everyone else for the consequences. He's failing to stop terrorists strolling out of prison, failing to guard Britain against hostile actors. He's completely failing to stop the boats. How can anyone trust him to protect the country?
Well, Mr. Speaker, he talks about trust, he talks about action. Just today, this government is taking action to reform defective EU laws to unlock over 100,000 homes, boosting our economy, supporting jobs and ensuring that we can realise the aspirations of homeowners. It is typical of the principles-free, conviction-free type of leadership that he offers. Flip-flopping from being a builder to a blocker. Mr. Speaker, the British public can't trust a word he says.
There was more pressure on the government today when the Shadow Environment Secretary said nothing represented 13 years of Conservative failure more graphically than the sight of what he called stinking, toxic sewage pouring into our rivers, lakes and seas. Steve Reid was saying Tories cut back on monitoring the water companies, but the government said they were clearing up the mess that Labour left. Now, a man who plotted to kill Her Majesty the Queen with a crossbow believed he had a purpose to do something dramatic, a court has been hearing. Jaswant Singh Chahal was found in the grounds of Windsor Castle on Christmas Day 2021 while the late Queen was still in residence. He's being sentenced after pleading guilty to charges which include an offence under the Treason Act. You're with GB News across the UK on TV, in your car, on digital radio and on your smart speaker by saying play GB News. This is Britain's news channel.
Thank you very much for that, Polly. I've got a packed show coming your way in just a second. But before I get on to serious matters of the day, I must start my programme with an apology, everybody. I must apologise to all of those dogs and, crucially, those owners as well that were watching last night, if indeed they were upset by one of our, well, more than one, actually, quite frankly, viewers' suggestions and the subsequent debate remuzzling dogs. Lots of you were not having absolutely any of it. You were, you inundated me, quite frankly, with your little fairy bundles saying, look at these faces, Michelle. How could anyone even consider vaguely muzzling these beauties? Roxy there, Tom's dog there, Anthony's dog, and Pablo as well. Oh, I'm sorry. You know what? I hope that we are very much still friends. Because you know the drill, don't you, on Dewbs & Co? It's not just about us, it is very much about you guys at home as well. I always want to know what is on your mind. You can get in touch with me all the usual ways. Email, of course, gbviews@gbnews.com, or you can tweet me at gbnews if that is indeed your thing. Anyway, I am joined tonight right through till 7 o'clock by Quentin Letts, the journalist, and Aaron Bastani, co-founder of Novara Media. Welcome, gents. You missed yesterday, so you don't
You've
have
upset people.
Well,
the
viewer's suggestion was talking about dangerous dogs, and a few of my viewers were saying that the answer was about dogs being muzzled in public.
Our dog would eat a muzzle.
Would it? Well, we've heard stories about your dog.
I'll send you a picture of her.
What else was your dog doing the other day?
Oh, she bit the vicar.
Yes, there was a few stories about your dog. I think I shall move on.
She's a horror.
I shall move on from dogs anyway. But I do, you know the drill. It is very much about you guys at home. So get in touch with me tonight. But you might have seen the news that broke probably about an hour ago, I think it was. Tobias Ellwood. Of course, you'll be familiar with him if you don't sit there and follow the twists and turns of what goes on in the Westminster bubble. Many people will be familiar with him. He was, of course, the MP that tried, I would say, incredibly bravely to do CPR on the police officer. Was it Keith Palmer from memory, of course, that was, well, he was very sadly killed, wasn't he? So Tobias Ellwood, you might be familiar with the fact that he was also the chairman of the Defence Select Committee. Anyway, did you see what I would call, quite frankly, the very strange, weird video that he went on to do about Taliban? Let me just show you a little bit of it if you didn't see it.
Here in Kabul, the streets are relatively safe. The checkpoints have all gone, businesses are reopening, the economy is starting to function. Our British embassy is just through those gates over there. Unfortunately, it's still closed. There is a calm, though, to the country that local elders say they've not experienced since the 1970s. That's how long ordinary Afghans have experienced war.
So, do we shout from afar and risk another era of instability, a rise in terrorism and mass migration, or re-engage? If the EU embassy can open up, so can ours.
I don't know about you, but I personally find that a little bit weird. Many people were saying it's like some kind of propaganda-style video, some kind of weird travel brochure and all the rest of it. Quentin, I'll start with you. What do you make to it?
You should leave, if you're a politician, you should leave the TV reporting to the journalists, to the John Simpsons of this world, because, and particularly so if you're the chairman of a select committee. He was straying into the sort of stuff that's just dangerous for a select committee chairman. If you're a select committee chairman, you're there probably going to be seen as representing the committee. And therefore, it's not surprising that some of the committee members said to dear old Tobias, the matinee idol from Bournemouth, that he'd exceeded his function. He's a good-looking guy. He's got an honourable army record, not necessarily a member of Mensa, and I'm afraid that...
That's a bit harsh.
Well, it's true, though. He's not the brightest. But, a brighter man would have seen that he was getting into trouble on this. And he's gone tonight, he's resigned. It's very unusual for a select committee chairman or chair rather, to go. These people have become the sort of bishops of the backbenches, and this is quite a significant moment, I think, and it will perhaps stop select committee chairs being such show ponies. In recent years, some of them have become terrible, frightful show-offs.
I'm going to come back in a second to you just about the Taliban more generally, but just in case you're not familiar at home, what was going to happen, there was going to be... So this video, it was basically... he put it on his Twitter. This was before summer recess. Then what they needed to do is come back after the summer recess and have a vote of no confidence. That was due to take place, I think it was tomorrow. He decided that before that vote, he was going to essentially go before, some would say, he was going to be pushed. I will get on to the nuances of the Taliban in a second, but just on the Tobias Ellwood point, first of all, do you think he should have done those kind of videos?
I think everything Quentin just said about his role in terms of chairing a select committee should be completely off boundaries. I mean, on the substance of what he said, I probably agree on most of what he said there. I think the tone
Do
was...
you?
I think we should have diplomatic relations with a country which was the home to people who masterminded a terrorist atrocity in 2001, because you want to be collecting intelligence on those people, you want to be ensuring that British nationals who, for whatever reason, get stranded, lost, arrested, kidnapped in Afghanistan, that you have a line of communication with that government. So I certainly think you want some kind of diplomatic presence there. I don't think that means you start doing soft soap, quasi-TV adverts about how wonderful Afghanistan is, because it isn't. But I think these are two separate points. I think it's in the national interest to have some kind of diplomatic presence there, for sure.
So what would that look like when you say some sort of diplomatic presence? Like what?
I think an embassy. Yeah, I think an embassy. Just do what the Europeans have done, the EU's done. I mean, that is not so outlandish. And like I said, there's two aspects to that. The first, intelligence gathering. We want to know what's happening inside Afghanistan. We want to know who's jockeying for what positions amongst their political elite, given what happened in 2001. Secondly, we want to be ensuring and guaranteeing the safety of British nationals that happen to be there. Journalists, adventurers who perhaps have made an unwise decision, whatever. So I think he was right on some of these things. He was obviously wrong about many of them. And I think the tone was obviously idiotic, frankly, as well. And like you say, I think any reasonable politician would have seen the response a mile off. But it's a shame, because that's then muddied what I think actually is a controversial but ultimately sensible point.
And what do you make about the suggestion that we somehow, I don't know, make friends, I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but make friends a bit more with the Taliban and all the rest of it?
We've got to be very wary of the Taliban, of course we have, but we've got to be sort of sensible and serious about this. And if you're talking about the government of an important country like Afghanistan, strategically terribly important, then you've got to have some sort of relationship with them. And the same way that the Major government and the Blair government talked to Sinn Féin and IRA, you've got to sometimes hold your nose and deal with some very smelly people. We have diplomatic relations with Vladimir Putin's Russian, and quite right too. So there has to be some sort of dialogue, but it doesn't include some chump going there pretending to be John Simpson. And within half a minute of Ellwood putting his self-serving video out on Twitter, the Afghan government was saying, look, we're great guys. Well, you know, that just showed that it was a complete propaganda own goal.
You don't seem to like Tobias Ellwood.
I like him very much as a person. I'm perfectly happy to chat to him, have a coffee with him, all that, but I just think he's been a fool.
Do you agree with that? Has he been a fool? This video for, like, was it the Halo? Was it the Halo Trust?
Oh, well, it may well have been on that, but I think that's all been lost sight of, hasn't it? It's just all about Tobias. It very often is all about the politician. And there has recently been this tendency of select committee chairs becoming terribly self-promotional. There's a lady who runs the Foreign Affairs Select Committee at the moment, and my goodness, she just thinks of it as a complete vehicle for her own greater glory. It should be about much more serious stuff, and it's about a consideration of the committee, who are well-informed people about foreign affairs, and in this case, it's the Defence Committee, and Tobias has stepped on a landmine.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to say, I do think that a lot of MPs somehow they do seem to think they are some kind of celebrity at this moment in time, which I personally don't like, because I think you're not a celebrity, you're a public servant. Yeah. And I think all of this kind of, your TV presenters, you're writing your books, you're going on your daft reality TV shows, I think it's going to people's heads. Yeah. I don't know how I've quite got onto that topic.
It's not actually that new. I mean, Keith Vaz was terrible about this too. Keith Vaz used to run...
Is that the washing machine salesman?
He then had a little misfortune, but he used to run the Home Affairs Select Committee, really important, serious committee, and it was the Keith Vaz show.
Disgraceful. Do you not think it's getting worse, though? Because now, of course, people want that 1-minute clip they can put on TikTok or Instagram or Twitter or Facebook. And I think it reduces a really important function to a mediatised product, which increasingly feels like this is the preface to a career in podcasting or hosting GMB in the mornings, when, of course, actually, that job of chairing a select committee is far more important.
They get extra smarties as well for doing this, of course. They get an extra 17,000 quid for chairing a committee. Not bad.
But also, I guess...
Better than GB News.
I think he's doing a subtle hint that he wants a pay rise there. I don't know if anyone picked up on that. I did. But I guess the flip side, I think, of what I was just saying, if I may kind of devil's advocate it, I guess you've got 5-year terms. After that, you could essentially be unemployed. It's very tricky. How do you go from being an MP to just, I don't know, random
give us the violin, Michelle, give us the violin.
What? I'm playing devil's advocate
office. I mean, that's the danger, that's the risk. That's the game.
Is it? Well, I don't know. You get in touch and you give me your thoughts on that. After the break, I want to talk to you about pensions. If you're not on yet already, we're all going to be affected by this, aren't we? I'm asking you, do you think that they should be increased basically by wages plus bonuses? That is the argument that's about to roll. And also, do you think that your state pension should count towards your taxable income in this country? Yes or no? See you in 2.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamon.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
When the news happens, it happens here.
And really important breaking news.
Breaking news this morning.
On TV, radio and online, the news starts here on Britain's Newsroom.
All the biggest stories and the answers that you need from across the UK and beyond.
Join Britain's Newsroom from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
People in Britain, they love free speech, but they also love fair play.
I don't care if I'm speaking somebody from a trade union, from the Labour Party, somebody from the SNP. And I think the viewers like to see that actually we can challenge one another, but in a positive way.
We think we ask the questions that people want to ask, and often we ask the questions that we wanted to ask in Parliament but never got the chance to ask.
So join us every Saturday, 10 a.m. till noon on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, "Nah, stop arguing." I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment.
I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different.
Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Hello there, I'm Michelle Dewberry with you till 7 alongside me. The man that I just remembered last time I was talking to him, he was talking to me about his wife's knickknacks. Do you remember that, anybody? Quinton Letts is alongside me, as is Aaron Bastardi, the co-founder of Novara Media. Lots of you getting in touch with me very randomly about coconut mushrooms. If you've only just tuned in, you'll have no idea what I was talking about. I was just reminiscing about my nana who used to give me coconut mushrooms. Do you remember those sweets? Absolutely delicious they were. Lee, about Tobias Ellwood. He says, if Tobias Ellwood was telling the truth about the Taliban, what's the problem, everybody? Well, some might say that actually talking about the Taliban and things like how many solar panels they've put in and all the rest of it kind of misses the point when they're doing things like not letting girls go to school and all the rest of it. I think that is more the problem. Lee, Sandra said, when I saw that video some weeks ago, I couldn't believe my eyes. She said to me, she's confirmed the impression I've already got, which is that we've got a government of incompetence. who've got no idea what they are doing, gotta say. Max says, I've never liked Tobias, being honest, but on this occasion, I don't agree with what people are saying. He supports Tobias. And Chris says, Michelle, if Tobias Ellwood feels so safe in Afghanistan, why was he wandering around wearing a bulletproof vest?
Great point.
That's a very good point, yes, I'll give you that one. Right, let's talk pensions, shall we? Pensioners apparently will lose a chunk of their state pension boost next year because of what some people are calling a stealth tax. You'll all be familiar by now with the triple lock. It basically says that the pensions have to increase each year by one of the things. It all gets a bit complicated, but it's basically either inflation, wage growth, or 2.5%. One of the issues, or one of the challenges that people are now saying, is that when you look at the wage figure and you have wages plus bonuses, and it's this that people are now arguing. So I think what the suggestion is that the Tories are going to, instead of raising it by wages plus bonuses, they want to strip it back and just do wages.
Yeah.
Where do you stand on it, Aaron?
Yeah, it's really interesting because I think wages, maybe you can correct me, this came out yesterday, right? Wages went up 7.4%, but of course we've had so many of these settlements recently because of industrial disputes and whatnot, as well as the bonuses. So quite a one-off thing, really, as a result of industrial action over the last 2 quarters.
But wages, including bonuses, this is the issue. That is 8.5%.
Yeah, which is you know, it's significantly higher than inflation for the first time in a long time. But I would get rid of the triple lock. Personally, I think it's daft.
Oh, I can hear you all at home.
Yeah.
I can hear you absolutely screaming at him.
But hold on, hold on. I would index it to inflation. And I think there's a if you were progressive, there's an argument to say index it to inflation plus 1% or something like that if you want to reduce pensioner poverty. What I don't get is this kind of arcane system of inflation or wages or 2.5%. And that third part, the 2.5%, is crucial because what it really crystallises is that this policy presumed that we would have low inflation and low wages like we did in 2010 all the time. And of course,
which is when it was introduced.
Yeah.
Triple lock was introduced in 2010.
Which we don't. And I think when it was introduced in 2010, 2011, it was calculated to cost £450 million. Now this increase is estimated to cost £10.2 billion. We need to do something about pensioner poverty. I think that, I'm sure we all agree on that. I think most people watching and listening agree on that. The question is the triple lock the best way of doing that? So I think simplify it, and I think just index it to inflation.
What do you reckon to that? Is that fair or not, Quentin?
It's a very tricky question, this, because I personally believe I want to have lower taxes generally, I want to have lower government spending, but I have an old ma of 88, and I know that people, when they get older, need to spend more on heating. They have more calls on, you know, they need a bit more money in order to survive in a comfortable way. So it's a really tricky one, this. We haven't yet heard what, for sure, the two main parties are going to do on this in the next general election.
Well, let's be honest.
They're being a little bit unclear about it at the moment. But can we afford, as a nation, the current pensions bill? Well, I think we can just about at the moment. But as the population, as the demographic bulge comes up, then it's going to become increasingly difficult. And so I find myself a little bit torn about this. I think at the moment it's politically electoral suicide to fiddle about with this. So that means it probably won't happen.
And that is the key point, isn't it? Because it's all well and good talking about tinkering this and all the rest of it, but really, I don't think any party, literally in the run-up to an election, has the chops to sit there and say, right, we're going to change this and potentially therefore reduce it, because the turnout of the older demographic is huge compared to the turnout of the younger demographic. I just want to just move on slightly, but related, because when it comes to pensions, there's lots of conversations about pensioners being pulled into tax brackets. I'll just bring up the tax brackets for those of you that might not be familiar with them. You can see you get £12,570 at zero rate. And then you go up to 20% when you go over that threshold, but up to 50%. That is in England, Wales and Northern Ireland. Over in Scotland, it does alter quite a little bit. You've got a couple of extra bands there, give or take 1%. But still, that 12,570 is tax-free. Some people are saying that your state pension should be basically exempt from counting towards your taxable income. So if all you get is your state pension and you're under the threshold, you know, it's irrelevant. But if you get your state pension, then a little small work-based pension or whatever, you're going to start getting taxed on stuff. Do you think state pension should be excluded from counting towards your income?
I think there's a strong argument for it. I think if somebody's relying on the state pension plus, like you say, a small private pension, or they do some, they work 2 days a week at Waitrose or something, I think there's a strong argument for it. I'm even as a socialist, Michelle, I'm very reticent right now to increase any taxes, really, on people in low incomes or pensioners. I think if we're going to increase taxes anywhere, it needs to be on something like capital gains. It might need to be on a land value tax, maybe a small financial transactions tax. Now, I know these are all very controversial, I appreciate that, but I think if we're putting those anywhere in the economy...
Wealth tax, you always come after the so-called welfare.
Well, what I would say is...
when people say wealth tax, I don't go off on tangents because I debate this all the time, but it's something like the top 10% pay something like 60% of the tax take, and I'm like, how much more do you want people to pay? But anyway, I am going on a bit of a tangent.
So I'll clarify what I mean. Rates of income tax, generally speaking, are lower than rates of capital gains tax. So if somebody has a third house and they sell it, the tax they're paying on the revenues that's generated for them as a person is significantly lower than if somebody earned that money working for it.
But then let's not forget that the money that they've but the money that they've used to buy said asset that's apparently appreciated in value will have been taxable income.
I appreciate that, but I think if your work is being taxed at a high level, I think that's wrong.
Well, we always have this argument, don't we? You get in touch and tell me what you think. But anyway, Quentin, on this issue of the state pension being essentially excluded from counting towards your taxable income, yay or nay?
No, you can't do that. Income is income. I sound like some ghastly accountant, but I'm afraid that is. I hate tax. I can't tell the viewers how much I hate tax. But income has to count as income wherever it comes from. And the important thing with tax, so if you're going to have tax exemptions when it comes to pensions, that has to be at the point at which people are putting in money. So therefore, you're encouraging people to save, youngsters to save for the future. That, I can see, is where tax exemptions will work for pensions.
Vernon, Michelle, why can't any of you lot tell the truth? He asks. He says it's not the fact that the state pension increases is expensive, but it's more the fact that basically everyone and anyone gets that increase. He's saying, including millionaire pensioners. What you're asking then, Vernon, is means-tested pensions. Would you support that?
No, there aren't that many millionaire pensioners, and I don't think they are significant enough group for it to be relevant here.
John makes an interesting point. He says, why is this government intent on chipping away the people that don't have very much, so things like state pensions, when on the other hand, they're confettiing money around, millions of pounds per day, on housing people in hotels and all the rest of it that some would argue shouldn't even be here in the first place. You took the words out of the mouth of a lot of my viewers.
Yeah, but the thing is, they're not chiselling away at it. I mean, it's likely, there's indications at the moment are the government is going to stay with this, but there's quite an interesting conversation in Westminster at the moment saying perhaps all parties saying perhaps maybe things are getting too expensive.
Well, there you go. I was just about to make a hilarious segue into the weather, but I was rudely interrupted by Quentin. I've lost my train of thought, so I won't be hilarious. I'll just give you the weather instead.
That warm feeling inside. From Boxed Boilers. Proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
Alex Deacon here with your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. A three-way split with the weather tomorrow. Quite a blustery start across particularly northern Scotland. Many places dry with sunny spells, but across parts of northern England, North Wales, staying fairly dull. Tonight, it'll be wet and windy across much of Scotland and Northern Ireland, thanks to this area of low pressure. The strongest winds across the Western Isles through the evening and then moving across northernmost parts of the mainland during the early hours. The rain will trickle its way into northern England and North Wales, where it will linger for most of tomorrow, but further south stays largely dry. Still quite warm, temperatures holding up into the teens, but not the warmth and humidity that we had last week. Into Thursday, as I said, a bit of a three-way split, mostly fine in the south, mostly fine across Scotland and Northern Ireland, just a few showers in the west. It'll still be very windy early on, but this zone of cloud lingering from parts of Lincolnshire to Yorkshire, across through Lancashire and across North Wales will generate some outbreaks of rain on and off as well. Either side of that, in the sunny spells, feeling quite pleasant, but quite warm again in the south, 23, 24, further north, high teens generally. That zone of dull and damp weather has just shifted by Friday, so quite a grey, soggy day for southern Scotland and Northern Ireland. The far north, dry and bright bar the odd shower, and most of England and Wales set fair on Friday. Only 1 or 2 isolated showers in the afternoon. Cool where that rain persists, but turning warmer and more humid once more across the south.
That warm feeling inside. From Boxed Boilers, proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
Well, there you go. Is it going to be nice weather wherever you are? Get in touch. Are you happy about the weather at the moment? Is global boiling, is it upon us or not? Dale says, why do we always have to have a discussion regarding state pensions, Michelle, and its cost to taxpayers? And every year you debate the cost of public sector pensions. What about those things? Well, I've got to say, I do often raise the fact that there's 20-odd% pensions in various sectors and occupations. Is it affordable? I don't know. We can pick that up another day. Absolutely. Simon said there are many pensioners that are millionaires, and those people do not need an increase, and they should have their pensions means tested. I don't know, you know, because actually, if you've worked and you've paid your SEPs, you've paid your national insurance, whatever it is, why should you be then exempt from getting that money back just because you've happened to do well and be successful and earn a bob or two in addition? I don't know. You get in touch. You can have the final say. GBviews at gbnews.com. Lots coming your way as well. Have you seen what's going on in Peckham in London? It's all been kicking off, you know, because a shopkeeper used, admittedly a little bit intense, force to try and stop someone attempting potentially to leave a store with some goods. Do you think shopkeepers should be able to use force to protect their wares in this day and age? You get in touch. You tell me.
The Live Desk with me, Mark Longhurst.
And me, Pip Thompson. It's here Monday to Friday on GB News.
From midday, we'll bring you the news as it breaks, whenever it's happening and wherever it's happening, from across the UK and around the world.
Refreshing, feisty, but with a bit of fun too.
If it matters to you, we'll have it covered on TV, radio and online.
Join the Live Desk on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
So Dewbs and Co, we tackle the issues of the day with real robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton, for 2 hours packed full of unfiltered opinions, unique takes and fiery debates. I guarantee you blockbuster guests and exclusive reporting with no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I think there is a culture of collusion, quite frankly.
And no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In a world of dull and predictable radio and TV shows.
Oh, hi. On Mark Dolan tonight, we've got big guests. We drill into the big stories of the day. The show adds up to a brilliant listening and viewing experience. Mark Dolan Tonight is the most entertaining current affairs show ever, and that's a fact. That's Mark Dolan Tonight, Friday, Saturday and Sunday from 9. Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Like all families, we have arguments every now and then, but actually we agree on what the mission of GB News is, and that's the most fundamentally important thing.
GB News provides the kind of platform that lets all voices be heard. We don't hold back. We're free to say what we really think.
Just because some people who live in a tiny little Westminster bubble think that their particular story is important, that's not the most important story for me.
And often they will be difficult stories, stories that you won't find on the establishment media.
Because what people think in the north of England may be very different to what they're thinking in the home counties.
We're going to carry on telling the world what life is really like for households up and down the UK.
We love to be in your car, in your kitchen as you're having your breakfast. Whatever you're doing, you are part of the show. If it matters to you, it matters to us.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Hi there, welcome back to Dewbs & Co with me, Michelle Dewberry Quentin-Letts, the journalist. Alongside me, as is Aaron Bastani, a co-founder of Novara Media. Dean says, I'm a pensioner, only just, he says, but I work 2 days a week. And he's now saying, basically, that he is having to pay tax. He doesn't appreciate it. And he's querying whether or not you're going to de-incentivise people, essentially, when it comes to getting back into the world of work, which apparently our government say that we do need to apparently work until older in life. Jeff says no. Why on earth should we have to pay any tax at all on our pensions, Brian? Why on earth shouldn't pensioners get a rise in line with wages? Surely that is fair. Just a little thing to think about that, because a lot of people criticise people's bonuses, don't they, in this day and age? You've got to be careful what you wish for, you know, because this is the debate about whether or not those bonuses should be included in the pension rise or not. Bernard says you could fund all of this by subsidising and basically cutting the civil service pension contributions. Lots of you getting in touch and basically saying that you have worked all your lives and your pension is something that you absolutely deserve, and stop calling it a benefit. Right, have you seen what's going on in Peckham in London? It's basically all over social media. It's been talked about in lots of places today. Long story short, a very heated exchange seems to have occurred in it's like a hair accessory shop, basically. This is in Peckham in South East London. Now, I do have to be clear about this. This is an ongoing legal investigation, so that restricts us slightly in what we can comment upon this. But you've got this shopkeeper. Long story short, the allegation is that a customer went in, she wanted to get a refund on something. The guy said, no, you can't, that's not the policy or whatever, and she was apparently rude in his words. She's then said, well, apparently these are all allegations, obviously, that she's going to go and take some goods to the item of or whatever. Shopkeeper wasn't really having any of that, decides to stand at the exit and physically prevent her from leaving. There's a bit of jostling, a bit of toing and froing and all the rest of it. Long story short, I must say it is quite horrible to watch, actually. He does lose control of himself a little bit and he puts his arm on this woman's throat and all the rest of it. Only for a few seconds, I must add. And then he kind of... Anyway, the woman is, you know, walloping him, to put it mildly, with whatever she could get her hands on, it looks to me, shopping baskets and everything. Handbagging. So there's a couple of points here. I mean, this is the footage as well that you're seeing. I mean, that's not nice, is it? I mean, I really feel for shopkeepers, Quentin.
So do I. This, I mean, that earlier stuff about when he gets her around the neck, it's a bit like watching the old Saturday afternoon wrestling on ITV. We want Kent Walton there to tell us what's happening with Big Daddy. My natural sympathies would normally be with the shopkeeper, but I don't know Peckham. I don't know that store. I don't know what happened in full, so maybe don't worry too much about the specifics of this incident, because I can't really get into specifics too much because of legal reasons. It's ongoing. But more broadly, do you think, because let's face it right now, and I'm talking generally, not about this specific incident, shoplifting rates are going through the roof. There's a lot of people in this society, they don't give a damn. They think they can wander into a store and help themselves to pretty much whatever it is that takes their fancy. They know full well the police aren't going to come. And if they do come, the chances of them actually being caught or in trouble or whatever is very slim. So if you're a shopkeeper now, do you have to defend yourself, your goods, your wares? Yeah, I guess you do. And shoplifting has become the new, I mean, it's a national sport almost now. And the big supermarkets are complaining that it's affecting them very badly. Maybe it's partly their fault for introducing self-checkouts. You know, if they hadn't got rid of a lot of staff that way, then maybe things wouldn't have got so bad. But the shopkeepers must be having a devil of a time at the moment trying to make sure that the stock doesn't walk out of the door.
Indeed. Aaron?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a massive rise in private prosecutions by businesses, particularly in the West End, for instance, big retailers are having to do this because basically nothing happens to those who are guilty of shoplifting. I think there's two sides to this. The first is we live in a very high inequality society. The second is we have quite weak policing on this stuff. And I think realistically you can't have both. That's not how societies generally function. I think we know that in lower inequality societies, you have less of this kind of everyday conflict. Of course, it doesn't ever disappear, but it's lower. It indexes onto inequality, this kind of stuff. I'm not saying it's causal, but it correlates. But I think you can't have a high inequality society and, like I say, a very liberal society with regards to policing. You probably would need to move to a more heavily policed society. Now, I think frankly, a big part of it as well is the technology too, that over the last 20 years we've really seen a disintegration of relationships between commerce and consumption, which are human. I think dehumanising that, whether it's through, like you say, self-checkouts, online commerce, depersonalising, I think has huge overheads, which we'll be talking about in 20, 30, 40 years' time. What I'd finish with, as well as with this particular instance, the claim is that the owners are, I believe, South Asian, although this particular store is co-owned with a Jamaican man, apparently. And the claim is that the customers who are primarily of Afro-Caribbean heritage believe that they're racially profiled when they go in. They're seen as suspect of criminality before they've even looked at the wares. So there's multiple layers here.
Well, you team me up well, because it's all been kicking off there, and there's protests happening outside this shop. The shop is, like, shuttered up, basically. Let's just have a little look.
Black women, you're here, right? Yeah! You know how we're usually told, angry black woman, angry black woman. Today, I don't know if you ever felt that you needed the permission to be angry, but I'm asking you today, are you angry? Yeah! I can't hear you. Are you angry? Yeah! Yes, so we have every right to be angry.
Well, that is quite a lengthy video.
She sounds like a professional troublemaker to me, that one.
Go on, why?
You know, it's not everyone who has an electric microphone like that, a megaphone like that. I don't know, that just smacked of agitation to me.
But then a lot of people within the black community, they are saying, I mean, I don't know if I've got any pictures of this front of the store. Have I got any? If not, if I do, can I bring them up? Because the front of this store has been plastered with all of these, I don't know what you call them, like just messages or whatever. Like touch one, you touch us all, Black Lives Matter, Black Women Matter, all this and all that and all the other. So this has been very much turned into an issue of racism now. They're protesting. Have I got some of the protests? Is there any more of the protests? I think they're demanding that the shop is closed down. Yeah, you can't really hear. Have I got the sound on this? If I've got it, you can hear it. No, there's no sound. But anyway, long story short, they're shouting basically, shut it down, shut it down, shut it down. Do you think that's intimidation or natural, genuine
Well, I think there's obviously
protest?
there's always a line between protest and intimidation. I think what they've done there with regards to sticking stuff on the front is quite peaceful and quite powerful. What I'd also say is, you know, you can't assault your customers. This is a business which is heavily used by people of Afro-Caribbean heritage. There is no business on earth where the shop owner or somebody who works in the store can go around using that kind of inappropriate force on people that go there and expect there not to be a consequence. If there wasn't a consequence
hang on a second, that's very easy for you to say. Sitting in the comfort of a chair in a TV studio, it's very easy to say you can't go around assaulting your customers. No one sane-minded... No, but no one sane-minded would think you can assault a customer, right? So that's the first thing. And I've got to confess, when I saw him, and it was momentarily, you know, he wasn't trying to kill this person. Momentarily, he did try and restrain her by holding her neck, and that was deeply inappropriate. It made me very uncomfortable. There's no excuse for that. However, this fella is being smashed repeatedly over the head with a basket. You see the footage at another point, he's walked away, he's got his back to her. She's whacking him over and over and over and over again when he's trying to get away. And what you actually then see in one of these clips is you've got fellow customers who happen to be black themselves. They are trying to tell the customer, calm down, stop, stop. So whilst I would agree that you can't go around assaulting customers, obviously, when you are getting whacked over and over again like that, you can see him, he's standing there. What do you want people to do?
I think there's 2 points here. So firstly, I think there's obviously the angle of a man assaulting a woman like that. I just don't think it's defensible, really, unless he's literally having to...
But look at what she's doing.
Defending it. Well, I don't think that warrants what he did. I just don't think it does. I don't think it's appropriate force. I'd call the police. I mean, isn't that what the police are for? This idea that we now need to...
Police, give me a break. Well, no. You're going to call the police and what?
But hold on.
When they're going to rock up, what, 2 days later, they'll give you a crime number?
But that's a separate point. I agree it's a separate point. Look, I was assaulted on the street. I'll be totally honest. The police are going to do sweet FA by, you know, some little... charlatan and on midday doing nothing when I just left my home. So I agree with that, but that's not that lady's fault. I think as a society, that's when the police need to step in, and they're not.
Well, look, the police inquiry will take its natural course, whatever that is, so we're not going to speculate on any outcomes. But look, I'll say this. I'm always fascinated by how quick people are to immediately call something racist. I would ask you, if you're watching that and you do have that opinion, and I know many people do, that was a racist assault, please enlighten me, educate me. How was it racist? How do people know that that guy behaved in that way? Because of the skin tone of a person. How do you know that it wasn't a shopkeeper that was just trying to stop someone leaving their store and would have done that with anyone, man, woman, black, white, I don't know. I'm fascinated. If you do think that is racist, and many people will, how do you know that? What is it that makes you feel like that? Get in touch, let me know. Anyway, I want to talk to you about CCTV. You've just seen a good example of it there. Do you think there should be any areas, though, where CCTV is not allowed? One school has defended it, putting it in the toilet. Weird.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dewbs & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Jacob Rees-Mogg. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by headliners on TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Now then, Lee Anderson here. Join me on GB News on my show, The Real World, every Friday at 7 p.m.
I'm not eating bloody cat. Are you
Delicious.
mental?
Open your mouth. OK, here comes a train. Reminds me of the scene in Singing in the Rain.
Adam, is that a good one?
Whoa!
Join me at 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians to task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning, only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it. So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media.
We think different things, we've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities, especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion.
We're on a mission here to make a difference.
And the GB News family really is here for you, and whatever time of day you can watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
The People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Hello there, I'm Michelle Dewberry with you till 7 o'clock. Quinton Letts alongside me, as is Aaron Bastani. Listen, some parents are absolutely furious and are threatening to pull their kids out of a school. Why? Because, long story short, concerned about antisocial behaviour in the toilets, they've now put CCTV. Not in the cubicles, everyone, worry not, but more in the kind of, you know, the areas outside the cubicles. They're saying that a lot of people requested this because of antisocial behaviour and all the rest of it. Some parents completely support it, others obviously do not. Do you think CCTV has got any business in toilets?
No, certainly not kids' toilets. Not in kids'
Not
toilets.
in the cubicle?
No, for goodness sake, these are children. And I can see maybe in a high-spec prison this might be desirable. I loathe CCTV cameras. We never used to have them. We used to survive perfectly well. And I would willingly snip their cables, castrate the cameras. And there used to be a traffic camera in a village near us, and it got blown up by arsonists one day, and everyone was cheering. We've had too much pride.
Are you one of those undercover Blade Runners that are going around dismantling ULEZ cameras?
No, I'm not nearly competent enough to do that, but I'm with them in some ways.
I bet you wouldn't feel like that about CCTV if you were a victim of a crime.
Oh,
and CCTV helped track down the persecutor.
But would it help? How? Does it ever? I mean, how often does CCTV actually nail someone? Half the time they haven't got any film in, or else they're not working, or else the operative isn't looking at it because he's eating a beef burger or something like that, and then it's always out of focus, or, you know, it's inconclusive. They're not nearly as useful a tool in crime apprehension as you might think.
Aaron?
Yeah, I think, look, one of the principal responsibilities of a school is to keep the kids safe and to ensure their safety. And if children have raised the fact that there's bullying going on in that particular part of the school, if there's apparently, you know, quite extensive property damage which costs the school money, schools only have so much in terms of resources. Of course, that then goes back to the question of installing cameras. I think they're not in cubicles, that's the main thing,
yeah.
OK? So I can see for and against. I agree with Quentin on this, that the proliferation, the profusion of CCTV across the country is a signifier of failure, of social and cultural failure. However, if I was a parent at this school and my child was being bullied, I would probably want that CCTV in there. So I can see both sides of this argument.
I've put too much thought into school toilets, clearly. But I think if I was a headmistress, what I would do if I had the budget, I'd do away with these, you know, like these toilet block things. And what I would do is I'd have self-contained toilets with a sink. Toilet and sink door. Toilet and sink door. So you've just got a row of doors, there's no communal area, there's no messing around, there's no argy-bargy, no bullying, there's no space for twos, nothing like that. Get in there, do your business, wash your hands and out.
They'd never wash their hands.
Well,
children.
yeah, well, there you go. Anyway, look, I do want your thoughts on that. Nick says, absolutely not. The school in question is a failing on their part when it comes to discipline. Glenn, absolutely, definitely not. Ever, ever. And you say your granddaughter was bullied as well. Look, I just want to finish on showing some sweet mutts. Let's have a look at this. Aaron?
Yeah.
This is your pooch. Name, please.
Gino.
This is Gino. Show us yours. We've heard a lot about Quinton's.
There's Bonnie.
Little troublemaker.
The old ankle biter.
As you have described it. And this one was one of my favourite viewers. Look at that, everybody.
Oh.
Even I think that one's cute. It even won me over. I've got to say...
Woof, woof.
Woof, woof. I can't remember the name of that dog, though, which is really bad of me, but I did see that one.
Old memory going, is it?
It is. I think I'm getting old.
Too much drink?
Well, no, not enough. Some would say not. If some of my elder relatives was here, perhaps, and talking about tot of whiskies and all the rest of it, maybe that's my problem.
Yeah, old Dewberry on the bottle.
Yeah, Prince, by the way, Mr. Prince, that was the name of the dog. I've just been reliably informed in my logo, Mr. Prince. Lots of you still getting in touch about CCTV. There doesn't seem to be much support for putting CCTV.
Yeah, if you can have CCTV, where are you going to smoke at school anyway?
Nowhere, Quentin. Nowhere. If any of these children are what, do not listen to him. If
old health Nazis are out.
If you're sitting at home listening to Dewbs and Co with your dogs that he's asking where you're going to smoke at school, the answer is very clear, kids. Don't smoke. Right, anyway, Aaron, look, it's all we have got time for. Lots of people divided. They're feeling very sorry for shopkeepers in this day and age as well when it comes to shoplifters. What do the guys do anymore? Some people are even pondering, is it even worth being a shopkeeper in this day and age with all the hassle and the trouble that you get? I wouldn't fancy it. And I'll tell you what as well, I wouldn't fancy being a security guard. Because if you put your hands on people these days, they'd be rushing off to sue you, wouldn't they? Anyway, look.
You'd be terrifying as a security guard.
Me? Can you imagine? Yeah, people would be coming in and giving me goods. Anyway, look, it's all we've got time for. It's all got time for. Have a good night, everyone. I'll see you tomorrow.
The temperature's rising. Boxed Solar, proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
Alex Deacon here with your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. A three-way split with the weather tomorrow. Quite a blustery start across particularly northern Scotland. Many places dry with sunny spells, but across parts of northern England, North Wales staying fairly dull. Tonight it'll be wet and windy across much of Scotland and Northern Ireland thanks to this area of low pressure. The strongest winds across the Western Isles through the evening and then moving across northernmost parts of the mainland during the early hours. The rain will trickle its way into northern England and North Wales where it will linger for most of tomorrow, but further south stays largely dry. Still quite warm, temperatures holding up into the teens, but not the warmth and humidity that we had last week.
into Thursday, as I said, a bit of a three-way split, mostly fine in the south, mostly fine across Scotland and Northern Ireland, just a few showers in the west. It'll still be very windy early on, but this zone of cloud lingering from parts of Lincolnshire to Yorkshire, across through Lancashire and across North Wales will generate some outbreaks of rain on and off as well. Either side of that, in the sunny spells, feeling quite pleasant, but quite warm again in the south, 23, 24, further north, high teens generally. That zone of dull and damp weather has just shifted by Friday, so quite a grey, soggy day for southern Scotland and Northern Ireland. The far north, dry and bright bar the odd shower, and most of England and Wales set fair on Friday. Only one or two isolated showers in the afternoon. Cool where that rain persists, but turning warmer and more humid once more across the south.
The temperature's rising. Boxed Solar, proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamon.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know